Summer of 2017, Sunset Cove Beach, California. A place where families make memories, couples fall in love, and tourists escape their daily routines. But for Sarah Chen and Mike Rodriguez, this picturesque coastline would become the setting for one of the most puzzling disappearances in recent memory. Home video footage of Sarah Chen, 24, Asian American, laughing as she builds a sandcastle. Mike Rodriguez, 24, Hispanic, films her with his phone. "You're terrible at this, babe. Shut up and help me." Sarah and Mike had been together for 3 years, high school sweethearts who survived the transition to college, different universities, different career paths, but their love remained constant. Sarah was my everything. She called me every day, sometimes twice a day. Even when she was busy with her nursing program, she always found time to call. Jenny Chen sits nervously adjusting her hands, Sarah's mother, in her 50s. Mike was responsible. That boy never missed work, never forgot to call, never left without telling someone where he was going. That's why we knew something was wrong immediately. Carlos Rodriguez, Mike's father, wearing a mechanic's uniform, speaks with conviction. July 15th, 2017. Sarah and Mike drove to Sunset Cove Beach for what was supposed to be a romantic weekend getaway. They checked into the Ocean View Motel at 3 p.m. Grainy security footage shows Sarah and Mike entering a motel office. Timestamp 07/15/2017, 3:12 p.m. They seemed happy, you know? The girl was excited about something. She kept showing the guy pictures on her phone. They paid cash for 2 nights. The motel clerk, a thin man in his 40s with tired eyes, remembers them clearly. That evening, they were seen at multiple locations around the beach town. The Harbor Grill restaurant, where they had dinner. The Boardwalk Arcade, where Mike won Sarah a stuffed dolphin. The beach itself, where several witnesses saw them walking hand in hand as the sun set. We have solid witness accounts placing them on the beach until approximately 9:30 p.m. After that, nothing. Detective Frank Morrison, 50s, weathered face, now retired, led the initial investigation. Security cameras caught them leaving the Harbor Grill at 8:15 p.m. The arcade owner remembers them playing skee-ball and laughing together around 8:45 p.m. Then, they walked toward the beach access point near the old pier. That's where the trail goes cold. The next morning, July 16th, housekeeping at the Ocean View Motel found their room untouched. Beds hadn't been slept in. Personal belongings were still there. Car keys, wallets, Sarah's purse, Mike's phone charger, but no Sarah and Mike. I knocked on their door around 10 a.m. for checkout. No answer. I used my master key thinking they might have overslept. The room was exactly as they'd left it. Towels still folded, complimentary soaps unused. Their car was still in the parking lot. The motel manager, Gloria Santos, had worked there for 15 years and had never seen anything like it. The initial search began immediately. Local police, Coast Guard, volunteer search teams, they combed every inch of Sunset Cove Beach, the surrounding cliffs, the tide pools, the nearby hiking trails. It's nothing. We brought in search dogs. They picked up the scent trail from the motel room to the restaurant to the arcade and then to the beach. At the water's edge, the trail just vanished, like they walked into the ocean and disappeared. Detective Morrison recalls the frustration of those first crucial hours. Helicopters flew overhead scanning the coastline. Boats patrolled the waters. Divers searched the rocky areas where the currents are strongest. We had over 100 volunteers helping us search. Family members drove up from Los Angeles, friends from college. Everyone was looking for Sarah and Mike. But the ocean is vast, and if someone goes into those waters at night, especially during high tide, the chances of finding them are slim. Sarah's best friend, Lisa Martinez, 24, breaks down during her interview. She was supposed to text me when they got back to the motel that night. Sarah always texted me good night when Mike wasn't looking. She thought it was silly, but she did it anyway. When I didn't hear from her, I figured they were having a romantic moment. I never imagined something was wrong. The investigation expanded quickly. Police interviewed everyone who had contact with the couple that day. Restaurant staff, arcade employees, beachgoers, surfers, fishermen, everyone told the same story. Sarah and Mike seemed happy, in love, excited about their weekend getaway. There was no indication of trouble, no arguments, no signs of distress. They ordered the fish special and shared a piece of chocolate cake. They were laughing about something on her phone. She kept showing him pictures, and he kept shaking his head and smiling. They seemed like they were celebrating something. The waitress at Harbor Grill, Maria Gonzalez, 30s, remembers serving them that final meal. The couple tipped well and thanked her multiple times. At the arcade, they played games for over an hour. Mike was determined to win Sarah that stuffed dolphin. It took him 23 tries, but he got it. She hugged it like it was the most precious thing in the world. They were so sweet together. The arcade owner, Bob Patterson, 60s, had been running the place for 30 years. He sees lots of couples, but Sarah and Mike stood out because of how genuinely happy they seemed. The beach was where witness accounts become crucial. Several people saw them walking along the shoreline as the sun was setting. They were holding hands, stopping occasionally to take pictures with Sarah's phone. A family from Oregon remembers them because Sarah helped their daughter find a perfect seashell. They were just a normal young couple enjoying the beach. Nothing unusual about them, nothing that would suggest they were in any kind of trouble. Family witness, a mother of 3 visiting from Oregon, spoke to police the day after the disappearance. But as darkness fell on July 15th, fewer people remained on the beach. The last confirmed sighting came from Tommy Chen, no relation to Sarah, a local fisherman who was packing up his gear around 9:30 p.m. I saw them near the tide pools by the old pier. They were sitting on the rocks, and the girl was taking pictures of the waves. They looked peaceful. I remember thinking they should be careful, because the tide was coming in and those rocks get slippery. That was the last time anyone remembers seeing Sarah Chen and Mike Rodriguez alive. The search continued for days, then weeks, then months. Theories emerged quickly. The most obvious was a tragic accident. The tide pools near the pier are dangerous, especially at night during high tide. The rocks are slippery, the currents are strong, and the water is deep. It's possible they slipped, fell in, and were swept out to sea. But there should have been some evidence. Clothing, shoes, the stuffed dolphin Mike won for Sarah. The ocean usually gives something back. Detective Morrison explains the challenge of ocean-related disappearances. Bodies, personal items, some trace that they were there. We found nothing, not a single piece of evidence that they ever entered the water. Another theory was that they had run away together. Maybe they were in some kind of trouble, financial or otherwise, and staged their own disappearance. But this theory fell apart quickly under investigation. Their bank accounts were untouched. Their social media accounts went dark. Sarah missed her nursing school orientation. Mike missed work at the auto shop where he'd been employed for 2 years. Neither of them had a history of impulsive behavior or any reason to disappear. Sarah was 2 weeks away from starting her final year of nursing school. She'd been planning this for months. She had already bought her textbooks, picked out her clinical uniforms. She was excited about becoming a registered nurse. She wanted to work in pediatrics. Jennifer Wu, Sarah's nursing school friend, describes Sarah's dedication to her career. Mike had just gotten promoted to senior mechanic at Rodriguez Auto Repair. He was saving money to buy an engagement ring. He'd been looking at rings online for weeks, asking me which ones I thought Sarah would like. David Martinez, Mike's co-worker and best friend, reveals Mike's marriage plans. The investigation took a darker turn when police began exploring the possibility of foul play. Sunset Cove Beach, despite its picturesque appearance, had a history of crime, drug activity along the coast, occasional assaults, and one unsolved murder from the 1990s. We had to consider that they might have encountered someone with bad intentions. Maybe they witnessed something they shouldn't have seen, or maybe they were simply in the wrong place at the wrong time. Detective Morrison discusses the criminal investigation angle. Police interviewed known criminals in the area, checked alibis, looked into drug activity around the beach that weekend. They found nothing connecting anyone to Sarah and Mike's disappearance. The couple's phones provided few clues. Sarah's phone was found in their motel room, plugged into the wall charger. Mike's phone was never found, presumably because he had it with him when they left for their beach walk. Sarah's phone showed normal activity throughout the day. Text messages to her mother, photos of their meals, pictures of the beach and each other. The last activity was at 8:52 p.m. when she posted a photo of the sunset to her Instagram account with the caption, Perfect night with my perfect guy. Cell phone records for Mike's phone showed it was last active at 9:15 p.m., connecting to a cell tower near the beach. After that, nothing. The phone either died, was destroyed, or ended up somewhere without cell coverage like the bottom of the ocean. Months passed. The story made local news, then faded from public attention. Sarah's family held vigils. Mike's family offered a $10,000 reward for information. Police followed up on dozens of tips, all of which led nowhere. Someone claimed to have seen them in Las Vegas. Another person swore they were living in Mexico. A psychic called to say they were trapped in an underwater cave. None of these leads panned out. The case was reclassified as a cold case after 2 years of active investigation. The families never stopped hoping, never stopped searching, never stopped believing that somehow, somewhere, Sarah and Mike were still alive. I kept expecting them to walk through the door. Every time the phone rang, I thought it might be Sarah calling to tell me she was okay, that it was all a misunderstanding. But months turned into years, and the calls never came. Jenny Chen struggles with the reality that her daughter is likely gone forever. 5 years passed, then 6, then 7. The families had learned to live with the uncertainty, the not knowing. They established a scholarship fund in Sarah and Mike's names. They organized annual memorial walks along Sunset Cove Beach. Life moved forward, but the questions remained. What happened to Sarah Chen and Mike Rodriguez on that summer night in 2017? The answer would come from an unexpected source. In March 2024, 7 years after the disappearance, Sunset Cove Beach became the site of a major development project. The old pier area, where Sarah and Mike were last seen, was being transformed into a luxury resort complex. Construction crews were working on the foundation when they made a discovery that would change everything. We were excavating for the hotel foundation when the excavator hit something hard about 4 feet down in the sand. At first we thought it was a rock or maybe an old piece of driftwood, but when we dug it out we realized it was something else entirely. Construction foreman Rick Sullivan, 45, made the discovery that would reopen the case. It was a waterproof camera case, the kind photographers use for underwater shooting. It was partially buried in sand that had been undisturbed for years, maybe decades. The case was scratched and weathered, but it was intact. And inside, there was a camera. The camera was a Canon EOS, a model that was popular among amateur photographers in the mid-2010s. The serial number traced back to a purchase made in June 2017 at a Best Buy in Los Angeles. The buyer was Sarah Chen. She had bought the waterproof case and underwater housing just weeks before their trip to Sunset Cove Beach. Sarah was always taking pictures. She wanted to capture everything, every moment, every memory. She'd been talking about getting an underwater camera for months because she loved taking pictures of the tide pools and the marine life. Jenny Chen confirms her daughter's passion for photography. The camera and its waterproof housing had protected the contents for 7 years buried in sand. When police opened the case, they found not only the camera but also a memory card that was still readable. The photos and videos on that card would provide the first new evidence in the case since 2017. The memory card contained 347 photos and 23 video files, documenting Sarah and Mike's entire last day. Photos of their breakfast at the motel, pictures of the beach, the waves, other beachgoers, selfies of the couple smiling and laughing, videos of Mike trying to body surf while Sarah laughed behind the camera, and then the final files. The last photos on the camera were taken at 9:43 p.m. on July 15, 2017, 13 minutes after Mike's phone had last connected to the cell tower, 28 minutes after the last witness sighting. These photos would reveal what really happened to Sarah Chen and Mike Rodriguez. The final sequence of photos shows the couple at the tide pools near the old pier, just as witness Tommy Chen had described. But these images reveal details that no witness could have seen in the darkness. Photo number 344 shows Mike sitting on a large rock, pointing at something in the water. Sarah appears to be photographing sea anemones in the tide pool. The timestamp is 9:41 p.m. Photo number 345, taken 2 minutes later, shows something that investigators had never considered. In the background of the shot, Barely visible in the camera's flash, there appears to be another person. Someone was watching Sarah and Mike from approximately 50 feet away, hidden behind the larger rock formations. Photo number 346 is blurry, as if the camera was moved suddenly or dropped, but it captures something crucial: a bright light, possibly from a flashlight or phone, pointing directly at the couple from the direction of the hidden figure. The final photo, number 347, is dark and unclear, but digital enhancement would later reveal what appears to be Sarah's hand reaching toward the camera, as if she was trying to grab it or hide it quickly. When I saw those final photos, I knew we weren't dealing with an accident anymore. Someone else was there that night, someone who had been watching them, someone they didn't expect to encounter. Detective Morrison was called out of retirement to consult on the reopened case. The video files were even more revealing. The last video, recorded at 9:42 p.m., captures audio along with the dark, shaky footage. Sarah's voice can be heard whispering urgently to Mike. The audio quality is poor, but digital enhancement revealed fragments of conversation. "Mike, someone's watching us. We should go. Where's the path? I can't see." The video ends abruptly, but not before capturing the sound of footsteps on rocks and what might be another voice, too distant and unclear to identify. Analysis of the camera's location when it was found provided additional clues. The spot where construction workers discovered it was not near the tide pools where the final photos were taken. It was buried approximately 200 yards away, closer to the main beach access road. How did the camera travel that distance? Did Sarah throw it, hoping someone would find it? Did the person who was watching them take it and bury it later? Or did the ocean currents and sand movement over 7 years cause it to migrate? The camera has been examined by the FBI's digital forensics team. They've been able to enhance the images and audio, revealing more details about that final night. What they've found suggests that Sarah and Mike encountered someone at the tide pools, someone who may have had malicious intent. New detective Sarah Williams, 40s, leads the reopened investigation. She's reviewed every piece of evidence from the original case and is now working with new technology and fresh eyes. Based on the camera evidence, we believe Sarah and Mike were approached by an unknown individual while they were at the tide pools. The presence of this person appears to have frightened them. Sarah may have hidden or thrown the camera before whatever happened next occurred. The enhanced audio from the final video has been analyzed by linguistic experts and audio specialists. While most of the conversation remains unclear, they've identified what may be a third voice, deeper and more aggressive than either Sarah's or Mike's. We can't make out specific words, but the tone suggests confrontation or threat. The investigation has also benefited from advances in DNA technology. Sand samples from inside the camera case and from the area where it was found have been tested for genetic material. While most DNA evidence would have degraded over 7 years in sand and saltwater, newer techniques can sometimes detect traces that older methods missed. We found trace amounts of DNA from 3 different individuals. 2 samples match Sarah and Mike, which we expected since it was their camera. The third sample belongs to an unknown male. This could be the person who was watching them that night. Detective Williams explains the significance of the DNA evidence. The unknown DNA has been run through national databases without a match, but it's now on file for comparison against future suspects. The construction site where the camera was found has been thoroughly searched for additional evidence, but after 7 years and extensive earth-moving equipment operation, any other physical evidence has likely been destroyed or scattered. The camera discovery has renewed hope for the families, but it has also opened new wounds. For 7 years, they could imagine that Sarah and Mike had somehow survived, that they were living new lives somewhere far away. The camera evidence suggests a darker reality. At least now we know they didn't just walk into the ocean. They didn't run away. Something happened to them. Someone did something to them. And maybe we can still find out who. Carlos Rodriguez struggles with the new evidence. The case has attracted national attention again. Crime podcasts have covered the story. Documentary filmmakers have reached out to the families. The FBI has assigned additional resources to the investigation. Digital billboards across California display photos of Sarah and Mike with a new message. 7 years later, new evidence found. If you know anything about the disappearance of Sarah Chen and Mike Rodriguez at Sunset Cove Beach in July 2017, please contact authorities. The investigation is focusing on several new leads. Police are re-interviewing everyone who was in the Sunset Cove area that weekend in July 2017. They're looking for anyone who might have been near the tide pools that night, anyone who might have seen something suspicious, anyone who might know the identity of the third person captured in Sarah's final photos. They're also examining similar unsolved cases along the California coast. Could the person who encountered Sarah and Mike have been involved in other crimes? Are there patterns that investigators missed 7 years ago? We're looking at unsolved assaults, disappearances and murders within a 200-mile radius of Sunset Cove Beach. We're looking for similar MOs, similar victim profiles, similar locations. If someone did harm Sarah and Mike, it's possible they've done it before or since. Detective Williams coordinates with agencies across the state. The technological advances that made it possible to recover data from the buried camera have also improved other aspects of the investigation. Facial recognition software is being used to analyze the enhanced photos, looking for any identifiable features of the mysterious third person. Geolocation data from the photos helps investigators precisely map the couple's movements that final day. Even the weather data from July 15, 2017 has been analyzed to understand visibility conditions, tide schedules, and how these factors might have contributed to what happened. The beach that night was experiencing a new moon, meaning minimal natural light. High tide occurred at 10:15 p.m., about 30 minutes after the final photos were taken. These conditions would have made the tide pools area particularly dangerous and isolated. Sarah's nursing school classmates have organized search teams, returning to Sunset Cove Beach to look for any evidence that might have been missed. Mike's co-workers have contributed to a reward fund that now totals $50,000 for information leading to answers about the disappearance. Local businesses in Sunset Cove have posted flyers with the enhanced photos from Sarah's camera, hoping someone might recognize something or remember seeing the mysterious third person. The Ocean View Motel, where Sarah and Mike spent their final night, has cooperated fully with the reopened investigation. Staff from 2017 have been re-interviewed. Guest registrations from that weekend have been reviewed. Security footage that was previously thought to be unusable has been digitally enhanced with new software. We found additional footage that shows a person walking through our parking lot around 11 p.m. on July 15th. The figure is too distant and dark to identify, but the person appears to be carrying something. It could have been anyone, but the timing is significant. Gloria Santos, the motel manager, provides this new lead. The investigation has also revealed information about Sarah and Mike's relationship that wasn't fully explored in the original case. Friends now admit that the couple had been discussing engagement more seriously than anyone realized. Mike had indeed been planning to propose during their weekend getaway. He had asked Sarah's father for permission 2 weeks before the trip. He had the ring hidden in his car's glove compartment. We found the engagement ring in Mike's car after they disappeared. It was still in the jewelry store box, never opened. The receipt showed he had bought it the day before they left for Sunset Cove. David Martinez, Mike's best friend, reveals the proposal plans that never came to fruition. Sarah's family has established a foundation in her name that provides scholarships for nursing students and supports families of missing persons. They use the foundation's platform to keep Sarah and Mike's case in the public eye and to help other families going through similar ordeals. The foundation has funded improvements to beach safety at Sunset Cove, including better lighting near the tide pools and emergency call boxes along the beach access paths. These improvements might prevent future tragedies, but they serve as a constant reminder of what happened to Sarah and Mike. Every time I drive past Sunset Cove Beach, I think about that night. I wonder if Sarah and Mike would still be together today. I wonder if they would be married, maybe with children. I wonder what their lives would have looked like. Jenny Chen continues to visit the beach regularly, hoping for additional clues or simply to feel close to her daughter. The construction of the luxury resort where the camera was found has been temporarily halted while the investigation continues. The developers have cooperated fully with authorities, and have hired their own archaeologists to carefully examine the area before any further construction proceeds. If there's any chance of finding additional evidence, anything that might help solve this case, we're committed to supporting that effort. The families deserve answers. Resort developer. James Whitfield issued a statement supporting the investigation. The camera's discovery has also led to the development of new protocols for construction projects in areas where missing persons cases remain unsolved. The Sarah and Mike protocol requires contractors to immediately halt work and contact authorities if any personal items or potential evidence are discovered during excavation. As the investigation continues, advanced technology is being employed in ways that weren't available in 2017. Ground-penetrating radar is being used to scan the beach area for any buried items. Underwater sonar equipment is mapping the ocean floor near the tide pools, looking for any evidence that might have been swept into deeper water. Drones equipped with high-resolution cameras are photographing the entire coastline, creating detailed maps that can be compared with photos from 2017 to identify any changes or anomalies. Satellite imagery from July 2017 is being re-examined with current image analysis software, looking for any details that might have been missed during the original investigation. The FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit has created a profile of the potential perpetrator based on the camera evidence and the circumstances of the disappearance. They believe the person who encountered Sarah and Mike was likely familiar with the area, comfortable moving around the beach at night, and possibly someone who had been watching or following the couple earlier in the day. The profile suggests someone with local knowledge, possibly someone who works in the area or lives nearby. Someone who would know about the tide pools, understand the tide schedule, and be aware that the area becomes isolated after dark. We're looking for someone who was in Sunset Cove in July 2017 and might still be in the area today. Someone who knew that beach well enough to navigate it in the dark. Someone who might have been watching tourists, particularly young couples. Detective Williams describes the suspect profile. The case has inspired a new generation of digital detectives. True crime enthusiasts on social media platforms have been analyzing the enhanced photos pixel by pixel, looking for any details that might have been overlooked. Some have created detailed timeline maps of Sarah and Mike's final day. Others have researched everyone who was known to be in Sunset Cove that weekend. While most of these amateur investigations haven't produced viable leads, they've kept the case in public consciousness and generated tips for police to follow up on. The power of social media and public engagement in cold cases cannot be underestimated. Sometimes the smallest detail shared online can trigger a memory in someone who has crucial information. Detective Williams acknowledges the value of public involvement. 7 years later, the mystery of what happened to Sarah Chen and Mike Rodriguez remains unsolved, but it is no longer cold. The camera buried in the sand has breathed new life into the investigation, providing the first concrete evidence of what transpired during their final moments at Sunset Cove Beach. The enhanced photos and audio recordings have confirmed that someone else was there that night, someone who frightened the couple enough that Sarah felt compelled to hide their camera. The DNA evidence provides a genetic fingerprint that could identify the perpetrator if they're ever apprehended for another crime or voluntarily provide a sample. The investigation continues with renewed energy and advanced technology. Police are confident that someone knows what happened that night, someone saw something, heard something, or knows the identity of the person who was at the tide pools with Sarah and Mike. The families remain hopeful that after 7 years of uncertainty, they may finally get the answers they've been seeking. The truth about what happened to Sarah and Mike is out there, buried perhaps not in sand this time, but in someone's memory, someone's conscience, someone's fear of being discovered. As Detective Williams says, cases like this are never truly closed until they're solved. And sometimes it takes years or even decades for the right piece of evidence to surface, for the right person to come forward, for justice to finally be served. Sarah Chen and Mike Rodriguez disappeared on July 15, 2017. 7 years later, their camera emerged from the sand, revealing that they did not die alone on that beach. Someone was with them. Someone knows what happened. Someone holds the key to finally bringing Sarah and Mike home and giving their families the closure they desperately need. The investigation continues, and the search for truth goes on. Anyone with information about the disappearance of Sarah Chen and Mike Rodriguez is urged to contact the FBI tip line. 7 years have passed, but it's never too late for justice. It's never too late for the truth. The enhanced audio from Sarah's camera has been subjected to increasingly sophisticated analysis. The FBI's audio laboratory in Quantico has employed cutting-edge software originally developed for national security purposes to isolate and clarify the voices captured in those final moments. What they've discovered adds new layers to the mystery and horror of that July night. Beyond the whispered conversation between Sarah and Mike and the unidentified third voice, there appear to be additional sounds that were previously masked by wind and wave noise. The enhanced audio reveals what sounds like multiple footsteps on the rocky surfaces around the tide pools, suggesting that Sarah and Mike may have encountered more than one person that night. There's a metallic sound, possibly a knife being unsheathed or keys jingling. There's what appears to be a brief struggle, the sound of something being dropped on rocks, and then an eerie silence before the recording cuts off abruptly. The audio enhancement has revealed something that chills everyone who hears it. In the final seconds of the recording, there's a sound that appears to be Sarah screaming, but it's immediately muffled, as if someone put a hand over her mouth or she was grabbed suddenly. Dr. Margaret Hayes, the FBI's lead audio forensics specialist, has worked on hundreds of cases involving enhanced audio evidence. In 30 years of doing this work, I've rarely heard audio that tells such a clear story of people in immediate danger. The final moments of this recording suggest that Sarah and Mike were confronted by at least one, possibly two individuals with violent intentions. The camera evidence has also revealed details about the location that weren't apparent during the original investigation. The specific area of the tide pools where Sarah and Mike were last photographed is known locally as Devil's Throat, a name that reflects the dangerous currents and sharp rock formations that make it treacherous during high tide. Local surfers and fishermen avoid the area after dark, which raises questions about how Sarah and Mike ended up there and why they stayed despite the obvious dangers. Old-timers in Sunset Cove have stories about Devil's Throat dating back decades. There have been other incidents there, other people who went missing or were found injured on those rocks, but these stories were dismissed as local folklore during the 2017 investigation. Now, with the camera evidence suggesting foul play, police are taking a fresh look at the history of that specific location. Harold Jenkins, 78, has lived in Sunset Cove his entire life and worked as a fishing guide for over 50 years. He knows every rock, every current, every danger along that coastline. That spot where they found the kids' camera, Devil's Throat, that's not a place you go at night unless you know exactly what you're doing. The rocks are slippery, the currents are wicked, and when the tide comes in, it comes in fast. But here's the thing nobody talks about. That place has always attracted trouble. In the 70s, we had a girl go missing there. Never found her. In the 80s, a couple of teenagers were found beaten up on those rocks. Never said what happened to them. Local folks know to stay away from Devil's Throat after dark. Jenkins' testimony has prompted police to dig deeper into the historical records of incidents at Sunset Cove Beach. What they're finding is a pattern of violence and disappearances that spans decades, all centered around the same general area where Sarah's camera was taking its final photos. Case file, 1973. Melissa Torres, 19, reported missing after a beach party near the old pier. Her body was never found, but her shoes washed up on the rocks at Devil's Throat 3 days later. The case was ruled an accidental drowning despite the absence of a body. Case file, 1981. Kevin Parker, 22, and Janet Wong, 20, were found unconscious and badly beaten near the tide pools. Both suffered severe head injuries and had no memory of what happened to them. They claimed they had been walking on the beach when someone attacked them from behind. No suspects were ever identified. Case file 1987. Thomas Bradley, 45, a tourist from Nevada, disappeared while taking photographs of the tide pools at sunset. His camera was found smashed on the rocks. His body washed up in Monterey Bay 6 weeks later, nearly 200 miles north. The coroner ruled the death accidental, but family members questioned how he could have traveled so far in the current patterns known at the time. Case file. 1995. Maria Santos, 16, was found dead in the tide pools during low tide. Initial reports suggested she had fallen and hit her head on the rocks, but her family insisted she was an experienced surfer who knew the area well and would never have gone there alone at night. The investigation was closed after 2 weeks with no suspects identified. Case file 2003. David and Jennifer Clark, both 28, disappeared while camping near Sunset Cove Beach. Their tent was found torn and abandoned. Personal belongings were scattered around the campsite. No bodies were ever found, and the case remains unsolved. Case file 2009. Robert Chen, 35, no relation to Sarah Chen, was found floating face down in the waters off Devil's Throat. He had been staying at a beach house with friends who claimed he had gone for a late-night walk and never returned. The death was ruled accidental drowning, but toxicology reports showed he had not been drinking and was an experienced swimmer. This pattern of violence and mysterious deaths creates a disturbing picture of Sunset Cove Beach that contradicts its image as a safe family destination. Detective Williams and her team are now working to determine if these cases are connected and whether a serial predator has been operating in the area for decades. The possibility that Sarah and Mike were victims of a serial killer adds urgency to the investigation and terror to the family's grief. It's possible we're dealing with someone who has been hunting people at this location for 20, 30, maybe even 40 years. Someone who knows the area intimately, who understands the tides and currents, who knows exactly where to dispose of evidence so it will never be found. Detective Williams explains the expanded scope of the investigation. The camera evidence has also provided new insights into Sarah and Mike's state of mind during their final hours. Earlier photos from that day show them relaxed and happy, but images taken closer to their disappearance reveal subtle signs of unease. In several photos taken around 8 p.m., Mike appears to be looking over his shoulder. Sarah's expression in some images seems concerned or distracted. Did they sense they were being watched? Did they notice something or someone that made them uncomfortable hours before their final encounter at Devil's Throat? Photo analysis experts have identified what might be the same figure in the background of multiple images taken throughout that final day. The person appears to be following Sarah and Mike at a distance, always staying just far enough away to avoid clear identification. This suggests premeditation and planning, not a random encounter. If someone was stalking them all day, building up the courage or waiting for the right opportunity to approach them, it changes the entire nature of the crime. We're not looking at a chance encounter that went wrong. We're looking at a predator who selected his victims and waited for the perfect moment to strike. FBI behavioral analyst Dr. James Wright has created a detailed profile of the potential perpetrator based on the evidence and the historical pattern of crimes in the area. The perpetrator is likely a white male, age 30-60 in 2017, which would make him 37-67 today. He's familiar with Sunset Cove Beach, possibly a local resident or someone who visits regularly. He's comfortable operating at night and in dangerous conditions. He may work in a job that gives him knowledge of tides, currents, and coastal geography. He's organized and methodical, able to plan attacks and dispose of evidence effectively. He may have a history of violence against young couples or individuals, and he's likely committed other crimes in the area that haven't been connected to him. The investigation has expanded to include law enforcement agencies across California and neighboring states. Similar unsolved cases involving young couples who disappeared near beaches or coastal areas are being reviewed for potential connections. The FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit has issued a bulletin to police departments throughout the western United States, asking them to review their cold cases for similarities to the Sunset Cove pattern. Detective Maria Rodriguez, no relation to Mike Rodriguez, works cold cases for the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. She's identified 3 unsolved disappearances in her jurisdiction that share characteristics with the Sunset Cove cases. We had a young couple disappear from Manhattan Beach in 2019. Similar circumstances, last seen walking on the beach at night, no trace ever found. Another case from 2015 in Redondo Beach, a single female who vanished while jogging along the coastline at sunset. And going back further, a 2012 case in Santa Monica, where 2 college students disappeared after leaving a beach party. None of these cases produced solid evidence, but the pattern is eerily similar. The possibility of a serial predator operating along the California coast for decades has prompted the creation of a multi-agency task force. The Sarah and Mike task force includes detectives from 15 different police departments, FBI agents, forensic specialists, and behavioral analysts. They're using advanced database software to identify patterns and connections between hundreds of unsolved cases. The task force has established a dedicated tip line and website where people can report information about any suspicious activity they may have witnessed at California beaches over the past 20 years. They're particularly interested in anyone who remembers seeing someone watching or following couples at beaches, anyone who noticed the same person at multiple beach locations, or anyone who has information about the historical incidents at Sunset Cove Beach. Public response to the task force's appeals has been overwhelming. In the first month after the camera discovery made national news, police received over 3,000 tips. Most were well-intentioned but ultimately unhelpful, but several have provided promising leads that investigators are actively pursuing. Tip 1. A woman from San Diego reports that in 2018, while camping at a beach near Santa Barbara, she noticed a man watching her and her boyfriend through binoculars. When they approached him, he quickly left the area. She didn't report the incident at the time but recognizes similarities to the Sunset Cove case. Type 2. A retired park ranger from Big Sur remembers a series of incidents in the early 2000s where camping couples reported feeling like they were being watched or followed. Several couples cut their trips short because they felt unsafe, but no formal reports were filed. Tip 3. A fisherman from Monterey Bay claims he has seen the same person at multiple beach locations over the years, always alone, always watching other people. He describes the individual as a white male, approximately 50-60 years old, driving an older pickup truck with fishing equipment in the back. Each tip is being thoroughly investigated, and several have led to the identification of persons of interest who are being questioned and having their backgrounds examined. The investigation has also benefited from advances in genetic genealogy, the same technique used to identify the Golden State Killer and other cold case perpetrators. The unknown DNA found in Sarah's camera case is being analyzed using expanded genetic databases that include information from commercial genealogy websites. Millions of people have submitted DNA samples to websites like 23andMe and Ancestry DNA, creating family trees that can be used to identify relatives of unknown DNA samples. Even if the perpetrator has never submitted his own DNA, investigators may be able to identify him through relatives who have used these services. Genetic genealogist Dr. Susan Peterson is working with the task force to develop family trees based on the unknown DNA sample. We've identified several potential family lines that could be connected to our unknown subject. It's a painstaking process that involves building family trees going back several generations and then working forward to identify living male relatives who would match the age and geographic profile we're looking for. This process has already resulted in the identification of 12 men who are genetically related to the unknown DNA sample and who were in California in 2017. Each of these individuals is being investigated, their whereabouts on July 15, 2017, verified, and their backgrounds examined for any history of violence or suspicious behavior. The camera evidence has also prompted a re-examination of Sarah and Mike's social media accounts and digital footprints. Advanced data recovery techniques have retrieved deleted messages, cached web pages, and metadata from their online activities in the weeks leading up to their disappearance. This digital archaeology has revealed that Sarah had been feeling uneasy about something in the days before their trip. Messages to her friends suggest she had noticed someone watching her while she was out running near her apartment in Los Angeles. She mentioned to her roommate that she thought she had seen the same person following her on multiple occasions, but wasn't sure if she was being paranoid. Sarah's roommate, Kate Nguyen, 26, admits she didn't take Sarah's concerns seriously at the time. Sarah was always a little anxious about safety. She carried pepper spray, always locked her car doors, never walked alone at night. So when she said she thought someone was following her, I figured she was just being her usual cautious self. I wish I had encouraged her to report it to the police. I wish I had taken her concerns more seriously. This revelation suggests that Sarah and Mike's encounter at Sunset Cove Beach may not have been random. If Sarah was being stalked in Los Angeles before their trip, their predator may have followed them to the beach, waited for the perfect opportunity, and then struck when they were isolated at Devil's Throat. The investigation has expanded to include Sarah's neighborhood in Los Angeles, her running routes, the places she frequented in the weeks before her disappearance. Security cameras from businesses along her jogging path are being reviewed, looking for any footage of someone following or watching her. The apartment complex where Sarah lived has provided access to their security systems, and investigators are examining months of footage to see if they can identify anyone who was paying unusual attention to Sarah's comings and goings. Sarah's nursing school has also been contacted, and investigators are reviewing whether anyone there had shown inappropriate interest in her or had access to her personal information, including her travel plans. Meanwhile, the search for physical evidence continues at Sunset Cove Beach. The area where Sarah's camera was found has been excavated by archaeological experts using techniques normally reserved for historical sites. Every cubic foot of sand is being sifted for any trace of Sarah and Mike or their belongings. Ground-penetrating radar has identified several anomalies in the sand that require further investigation. These could be buried debris, natural rock formations, or potentially human remains. Each anomaly is being carefully excavated by hand, with forensic anthropologists standing by in case human remains are discovered. The search area has been expanded to include the entire beach and surrounding cliffs. Dive teams are using underwater metal detectors to search the ocean floor, looking for jewelry, car keys, or any other personal items that might have ended up in the water. K-9 units trained in cadaver detection are being used to search areas where bodies might have been buried or where decomposition might have occurred. The dogs have alerted to several locations that are being examined by forensic experts. The investigation has also revealed troubling information about the original 2017 investigation. While Detective Morrison and his team worked diligently within the constraints of their resources and technology, there were gaps in the initial investigation that may have allowed crucial evidence to be overlooked or destroyed. The tide pool area where Sarah and Mike were last seen was not properly secured as a crime scene in the first 24 hours after their disappearance. The area was contaminated by searchers, volunteers, and curious onlookers who may have inadvertently destroyed evidence. Crime scene tape was not erected until 2 days after the disappearance, by which time any footprints, DNA evidence, or other physical traces may have been washed away by the tides or trampled by well-meaning volunteers. We made decisions based on what we knew at the time. It appeared to be a case of two people who had walked into the ocean, either accidentally or intentionally. We focused our resources on search and rescue rather than criminal investigation. In hindsight, knowing what we know now from the camera evidence, we should have treated it as a potential crime scene from day one. Detective Morrison acknowledges the limitations of the original investigation while defending the decisions made by his team. Modern forensic techniques are being applied to evidence that was collected in 2017, but not thoroughly analyzed at the time. Sand samples from the original crime scene, stored in evidence bags for 7 years, are being subjected to new forms of analysis that can detect microscopic traces of blood, tissue, or other biological material. Sarah's cell phone, found in their motel room, is being examined with current digital forensics techniques that may be able to recover deleted messages, photos, or other data that wasn't accessible in 2017. Mike's car, which has been in police impound for 7 years, is being processed again with advanced forensic methods. New techniques can detect trace amounts of DNA, fingerprints, or other evidence that may have been missed during the original examination. The motel room where Sarah and Mike stayed has been re-examined, even though it has been occupied by hundreds of guests in the 7 years since their disappearance. Advanced forensic techniques can sometimes detect biological evidence even years after the fact, particularly in areas that haven't been thoroughly cleaned. The Ocean View Motel has cooperated fully with the re-examination, allowing investigators to remove carpet, examine plumbing, and test surfaces for any trace evidence that might remain from Sarah and Mike's stay. While it's unlikely that significant evidence remains after 7 years and countless other guests, the thoroughness of the current investigation leaves no stone unturned. The case has also attracted attention from amateur investigators and true crime enthusiasts around the world. Online communities dedicated to solving cold cases have created detailed timelines, maps, and theories about what happened to Sarah and Mike. Some of these amateur investigations have provided valuable insights that professional investigators have incorporated into their work. A group of retired law enforcement officers has formed an unofficial task force to assist with the investigation on a volunteer basis. They've contributed hundreds of hours analyzing evidence, following up on tips, and providing expertise in areas where current investigators may lack experience. The international attention has also led to tips from people around the world who may have encountered similar predators in other locations. The FBI is coordinating with Interpol and law enforcement agencies in other countries to determine if the Sunset Cove predator may have operated in other locations or if similar patterns of beach-related disappearances exist elsewhere. As the investigation intensifies, the psychological toll on everyone involved becomes increasingly apparent. Sarah's mother, Jenny Chen, has become a full-time advocate for missing persons, working with other families and pushing for legislative changes that would improve how disappearance cases are investigated. She's learned to navigate the legal system, understand forensic procedures, and coordinate media coverage to keep her daughter's case in the public eye. Mike's father, Carlos Rodriguez, has taken a leave of absence from his auto repair shop to focus entirely on the search for answers. He spends his days following up on tips, coordinating with investigators, and reaching out to anyone who might have information about his son's disappearance. The emotional strain has taken its toll on both families. Marriages have been tested, relationships strained, and mental health compromised by 7 years of uncertainty and grief. But the discovery of the camera has renewed their determination and given them hope that answers are finally within reach. Other family members have joined the search effort. Sarah's younger brother, David Chen, 22, was a high school freshman when his sister disappeared. He's now a college graduate with a degree in computer science, and he's using his technical skills to assist with digital aspects of the investigation. He's helped enhance audio recordings, analyze metadata from photos, and coordinate the online tipster database. Mike's sister, Elena Rodriguez, 30, has become the family's liaison with law enforcement and media. She's learned to speak publicly about the case, coordinate interviews, and manage the constant stream of tips and leads that continue to pour in. The families have formed support networks with other families of missing persons, sharing resources, strategies, and emotional support. They've learned that their experience, while unique in its details, is part of a larger pattern of families searching for answers about loved ones who have simply vanished. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Adults estimates that over 600,000 people go missing in the United States each year. While most are found quickly, thousands remain missing for months, years, or decades. Sarah and Mike are part of this larger tragedy, but their case has received more attention than most due to the mysterious circumstances and the recent evidence discovery. The attention focused on their case has helped other families gain visibility for their own missing loved ones. The Sarah and Mike Task Force has expanded its mission to assist with other missing persons cases along the California coast, and investigators are finding connections and patterns that were previously unknown. As the investigation continues, new technologies are being employed that didn't exist in 2017. Artificial intelligence is being used to analyze vast amounts of data, identifying patterns and connections that human investigators might miss. Drone technology is mapping the coastline in unprecedented detail, creating 3D models that can be used to simulate tide patterns, current flows, and other environmental factors that might have affected evidence. Satellite imagery analysis is being used to identify changes in the landscape over the past 7 years that might indicate burial sites or other evidence. Advanced sonar equipment is mapping the ocean floor in areas where traditional diving searches would be too dangerous or impractical. The investigation has also benefited from partnerships with academic institutions. Criminology students and professors are analyzing the case as part of their coursework, bringing fresh perspectives and innovative approaches to the investigation. Marine biology experts are consulting on current patterns and tidal flows that might have affected how evidence was distributed after Sarah and Mike's disappearance. Geology experts are analyzing the composition of sand found in Sarah's camera case to determine if it originated from the location where the camera was found or if it migrated from elsewhere along the coast. The comprehensive nature of the current investigation stands in stark contrast to the limitations faced by investigators in 2017. Budget constraints, limited technology, and the assumption that the disappearance was accidental rather than criminal all contributed to gaps in the original investigation that are now being addressed with unlimited resources and the latest available technology.